everybody. So today we're going to have the next tasting of my Idaho 7 SMaSH beer. SMaSH beer, single malt, single hop. So in this version we're using 2-row from Roar, 2 pounds, 8 ounces. So that is a little higher than most of my normal ones. Now this is part of the first 10 batches that I made in 2019. So I was actually playing around with how much grain should we use, what are our ABVs going to be, and I was letting them sit almost 2 weeks. So from the date I brewed them to the date I bottled them was about 2 weeks. And so I had enough back then, I think, to make 4 at a time. So what I was doing is one weekend I would make 2, the next weekend I would make 2, then I would have a break, and then the next week I could bottle the first, and then I could brew, 2, and then, it would keep on going. And so it would be, and I let the bottle sit 30 days, so you're about a month and a half from brew to drink on these. So I wasn't sure yet how the ABV was going to go. And if you've been following this since last year, a lot of my beers have been high ABV. I don't know if it's because they're fermenting a little cooler. I'm drawing out more of those sugars for the yeast to eat. But my numbers have not been close to what Beersmith on most of them, what it wanted. So yeah, these are going to be all over the place, and that's the thing. Learn your equipment, learn what you want to do, make it how you want, not by what something else would tell you. Because on some of these, it was like 5.2% ABV or 6.2% ABV, depending on what we did, and we were getting 7.5%, 8.5% beers. So this one is using Idaho 7. Our boil, this is a 1.25 gallon batch going into the carboy. 0.39 ounces at 30 minutes. 0.29 ounces at 5 minutes, then 0.32 ounces 3 days into fermentation for the dry hop. And then, so if on day 4 it was that was your day to dry hop it, from day 4 to day 14, so 10 days, that's how long your dry hop would be. Now I have moved it back a little bit, and we'll talk about this in some of the newer ones, that it's closer to a 10-day turnaround now. Just because I didn't want those hops sitting in there. Yes, I could have waited longer to put the dry hop in, but I wanted that active fermentation, so that way anything that got in there, that yeast was letting off carbon dioxide to get rid of it. This one was bottled on 7/11. Now this is 10 months old. At the beginning of this, there were some comments, hey, you should let one of these age a year to see what happens. And I was like, man, I don't know if I can do that, but we'll see. And here we are. 10 months has went by, and I still have some of them. Now, why is that? Because most of the time I've got between 4 and 7 brews going at a time. So if you take into account everything, and like my 2-hop series with Cascade and Centennial, there's 20 beers in there. So I put out a video every day, so that's 20 days right there. And if you keep on going, I can't even get through all the beers in a month. I would have to put 2 or 3 videos out per day to get, to stay on top of drinking these once a month. So Idaho 7, 6.73%. I did not write down what Beersmith said. Now, obviously, I've complained about this a lot. You get all these notes in Beersmith when you print off the recipe. I'm not sure why they can't put the ABV and the IBUs on there. So this is a reusable cap. Let's see if we get a hiss. Yep, good hiss. Oh, we did get some. I'm going to put this one back on here. We did get some nice smoke. I'm starting to see some bubbles. Because this was one of the first 10 batches, I was using the big Cooper's or Mr. beer carbonation tablets in here. I did switch from them just so I could get a little bit more precise using the small pearls. Okay, raw 2-row. I have to try and remember that because I'm not a big raw 2-row fan. Now, I was introduced to that going back probably 3 or 4 years ago when I made the what was it, the Dead Ringer clone, which is the Bell's Two Hearted clone from Northern Brewer, and they do use raw 2-row, and I really liked it in there. But my local homebrew store uptown only uses raw. And I've been getting the Bregis from Bell's itself, and I've liked that more than the raw 2-row. But hey, when I need grain, the closest place is uptown, so that's where I get it from. So we do have an off-white, almost caramel colored head. I think it's translucent, pulling that color up from the bottom. Not even a quarter finger of head. This one looks like it's Maris Otter. Very hazy, lots of particles. Now this could be the last bottle. I did not mark them, but with all the trube and stuff floating in there, I'm going to go with this is the last bottle. I will have to look it up, and I'll put it in the description if this is the last bottle. But yeah, lots of stuff floating in there. Still not going to hurt you. It's a caramel color, like a hazy caramel. If all that protein yeast would go to the bottom, I still think it would be kind of cloudy. Good bubble level coming up in the middle. Let's go ahead and smell and see what we get. Now, one thing, Idaho 7. Idaho 7, I believe... No, never mind. I'm not even going to say that. Nope, forget it. I do have stuff floating in there. Okay, let's smell. Because when I smelled it... Never mind. Big time honey water. Like a thicker honey water. Like you made a honey wheat beer and just dump like 15 gallons of honey in it. Maybe a hint of citrus, but big time malty honey water with a touch of citrus in there. What I was gonna say is I wonder if I have this with a different 2-row, because I was thinking back when I first started this, I was getting 2-ounce containers, and on the chart I have, I was keeping track saying, you know, here's Pilsner, here's 2-row, here's raw 2-row, here's white wheat, here's this grain, here's this, and then I would put the hops down beside it and go across, and I was thinking I made a Pilsner version of this or a 2-row, a different type of 2-row, but I didn't do that. This smells like almost a very light mead with some citrus. Like somehow if you got some citrus honey, that's what it smells like. Let's go ahead and taste. Yeah, okay. It kind of makes sense. I'm not saying this is true. There's a lot of bitterness in there. Like you get this honey malty sweetness like you would get in almost a triple IPA. Not as thick, but just that malty syrup taste is what you get. And then there's like a touch of citrus and then a big slam of bitterness. I don't like it. But I was wondering if the alpha acids were high, and the alpha acids of the Idaho 7 that I used was 14.1. That's what I'm going with. I think it's that just over time, like we've seen in some of the other ones, that instead of that bitterness level dying off, some of them have really ramped up and you're getting more. And I don't know if that's the change from that malt profile to a very weird malt profile, like that honey syrup taste, and something's going on in there to drive the bitterness to come out more. But it tastes like it's a very over hopped beer. Like you use Magnum at end of boil instead of at 60 minutes. I could see some people liking this, not very many. I think that malty syrup honeyness mixed with that big bitterness isn't good. Um, but this is what I would expect to see in a 10-month-old beer. That big maltiness, maybe not that much bitterness coming through, but if you made a standard IPA, maybe a little heavy on the malt, higher ABV, and didn't dry it out, didn't take all those sugars out, and let it sit, and in the back of the fridge you forgot one for 10 months, this is kind of what I think it would be. The bitterness is kind of like my Darth Vader black IPA that I made that we let sit. I think I still have some bottles left. I think it was 2 years later, Steve and I did a review on it, and it was like a big stout, but it was very bitter. That's the bitterness that I'm getting out of this one. I'm not sure why the color's like this. For Beersmith, for the RAR, it's saying it's a 1.8. It almost looks like it's a 3.8 or a little darker than that, maybe a Crystal 10, Crystal 20, somewhere in that range. But we'll have to see. Like I said, I'll put it in the actual description if this is the final tasting. But if I do have one, I will wait another 2 months, and that'll be a year, and we'll see if we get about the same profile. But yeah, for this one, I would drink it when it's fresh, and I would not age it. So if you like this homebrew video, check some more homebrew videos out over here. And until next time, happy brewing.